That sounded like a baby laugh.
It was my baby.
Yay!
Sorry, I didn't realize I was unmuted. I'm so used to like being muted and camera off when I answer. Oh.
Yeah. No worries, no worries. We are baby friendly, so do not worry about it. Awesome. All right. Well, thank you all for being here. It is 12:03, so I suspect we'll have a few more people popping in here. Linda, it was you that asked about policy replacement on GroupMe, right?
Yes, it was.
Okay, very good, very good. Well, we are going to get to that as tradition for my Thursday call. I do want to start our call off with something very positive from everybody, something that you're grateful for, some experience that was very meaningful to you. I'm going to go ahead and kick it off with my Mother's Day routine. I got to do something for my wife and then to my mom that I really haven't gotten to do before. So on Saturday, I took my kids out to do Mother's Day shopping. And instead of buying, the traditional perfume or jewelry or something like that, which I always do, right? We bought just a plethora of cheap stuff. Like she likes to draw and paint, things like that. So we bought her canvases and sketch pads and all kinds of little, things that she likes. And like lots, probably 20, 30 items. And so we went out, we bought all these cheap little things, under $5 or under $10 a piece. And then I took her out to dinner to a little hibachi grill type place. And on the way out the door, I reminded the boys, my two boys, that their job was to hide all of the gifts around the main portion of the house.
Easter egg.
My wife loves those kinds of things, right? So she came home and I said, because I've got plans for you tomorrow and you may not get to open your Mother's Day presents on Mother's Day because we have plans, I'd like you to open your presents today. And so she got to spend about an hour going through the house, finding all these little things, and every single little one just put a smile on her face, and it was really cool for her and for us. And then Sunday morning, my mom came over to do Mother's Day with me and my wife because I'm blessed that my wife and my mom love each other and get along. And I got to make waffles and bacon and eggs and do the whole morning routine and then take them all out on the water Sunday. So that was really
nice.
Yeah.
Very nice.
So I wanted to share that. And then I had an in-person, which is not normal for me, an in-person life insurance sale yesterday, which was really cool. This was a person that I actually called from a 50-cent mortgage protection lead back in 2019 that bought a couple policies from one of my downlines of the previous company, who's no longer an agent, and had reached out to me to get more coverage and refer other family members. So that was really, really cool. All right, who wants to go next? All right, I'm going to pick on you. We're going to start from the left side of my screen. Joy, you're up.
Well, for Mother's Day, I didn't have to do anything. No cooking, no cleaning, no nothing. I just sat.
Nice. That's enough. Unless you have something else to add, I think that says it all, right? That's pretty
No,
awesome.
that was awesome.
All right, very good. Linda, you're up next.
For Mother's Day, my daughter lives in Portugal. She's our only child. So I woke up to a nice text and then later on a phone call. We went to church, and then when we got home from church, I live in a retirement community, so there was a nice brunch that we had. And we sat with all of our friends. We have a group of about 10 friends. They're all 10 to 20 years older than me, but it's funny. Age doesn't seem to be a barrier when you're all in the same place and all here for the same reason. So it was a nice day. And then the rest of the day, I just chilled and didn't do anything. I kept thinking of things that I needed to do, but I didn't do anything. So it was a wonderful day.
Very good. Being around people that are older than you makes you feel young. That's also very good. Right?
I am the youngest one here.
Absolutely. Holly, welcome. You have not been on one of my calls before, so I don't know if you know that I do this routine, but I do this At the beginning of the call, we do something that we're grateful for, something very positive that happened in our past week since last Thursday. So is there anything that you would like to share?
So I am grateful that I'm finally transitioning back. I am looking forward to, yes, your mentorship, Misty's, and, just all the great things that, are coming down the pike for us, and a little overwhelmed with everything, trying to learn all the new carriers and get set up with everybody, but I have 4 appointments today, so I'm looking forward to, helping some more families out. So we'll see where this journey takes me.
Bless. Love it. Thank you. Carla, you're next on my screen.
I would say I'm just grateful for having a good Mother's Day. I was able to spend it with my 4 boys, and they made my day pretty easy. They decided to clean the house for me, so that's always welcome.
I love it. I love it. All right, so my screen just changed a little bit there. So next up on my screen is Courtney.
Hey, I'm driving. I'm just thankful, same as Holly, just to be back with you guys. Just the positivity and encouragement and mentorship that I feel like I've been kind of lacking over there. I'm thankful to have that all coming back. So excited to get going again with you guys.
Welcome back. Well, we're glad to have you. Very good. So the next on my screen is Nikki.
Hey, sorry, I'm also driving as well, just got back to the house. I'm just grateful that I reached out to Misty about this opportunity, and actually one of my agents I've already brought on is gonna be hopping on to this call as well. It's just a breath of fresh air to know that the transparency here is just real and it's authentic, and I love it. And I'm just excited. I've got 4 appointments today as well with my client business.
Very good.
It's just trying to get contracted.
Okay. Thank you. Next on my screen is Sammy.
Okay, bear with me because I'm a baby. It's very active. So I am super grateful this is my first time being able to be on this meeting. I'm super grateful to be able to have the opportunity to do that. Super grateful for like all these vehicles that are being set, with this team, and I'm definitely grateful that like this is how you want to start off your calls like that. Makes me so happy. Like that just like reaffirms like I am in the right place, because like that's one thing that we should do is like express gratitude every day. Like that's how we should start our day. So I absolutely love that. So I'm grateful that you are being you and that you are doing that for all of us and reminding us like what's really important in life. Like I'm grateful for so much. I can just go on and on. Like I'm grateful I can walk and see and say this and really do. Like I'm grateful like I'm able to talk to my clients, and I'm grateful I'm licensed. Like I'm grateful that we're able to help people with so much and have such an impact that others may not understand. I'm like super grateful. I'm just super grateful to be here. Super grateful for everybody too. So yeah.
Thank you, Sammy. I appreciate that very much. Thank you for those kind words. And I do truly believe that we all need to express gratitude more often. It's a great way to start any meeting or any conversation, especially when you're going to get into some heavy stuff, right? Start off that way. And thank you. All right, Clay. Last but not least, what do you got for us? Oh, there you are. You're muted.
There we go. Hi guys. Hey, so first off, I'd say I'm very grateful to be in this call, learning with all you guys, and picking up for all your experiences. And I guess outside of that, I'm really grateful and happy that later on this week I get to have a vacation down in Joshua Tree. I'm really excited for that. But I've never been, so hopefully it's not too hot.
I am excited for you to go to Joshua Tree. That is on my list.
Mhm.
That's really cool. That's a great one.
Are you going camping?
Yep, got the tent and little fire pit and everything.
All right, I've camped in Joshua Tree out at Giant Rock a million times. Middle of the day, find some shade. That's all I can say. Other than that, it's just beautiful. Big open sky at night. So many stars.
I'm very excited with stars, yeah.
You
Is
love
it giant
it.
rocks or jumbo rocks?
Well, jumbo rocks, but we call them giant rocks. Just watch out for the tortoises because they are protected by state law. So don't touch them, don't pick them up, don't change them from their route. And you'll hopefully see it. You'll hopefully see it.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. I'm super excited for you. Can't wait to hear about it. Would you be so kind, Clay, when you're there or when you're done, would you mind posting some pictures of your trip to Joshua Tree? And if you get any really cool pictures of the Milky Way, get those out there for us.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. Let's see, who's next? We got a couple of folks. I feel like we've met, but I'm not sure. Mr. Is it pronounced Frog? You are muted. I can't hear you. There you go. Great. And your first name? Good. Tim. All right, Tim. Welcome. Glad you're here. So we were all just going over some. The way I like to start my Thursday calls is with some gratitude and some positivity from everybody, something that you're grateful for, or something awesome that happened to you in the past week. And so you're up next.
Be put on the spot. But yeah, I'm grateful for this opportunity to be on this call. This is the first call for me. Thank you, Nikki. I'm grateful for Nikki. We met through, actually just, I had a work needs situation and she was able to help me out, steer me in this direction. So I'm very grateful for that. Some positives is that in my current role, had a really successful day yesterday, made not very many dials, like 5 dials, but I have 4 appointments out for today. So, I'm grateful for that and things are probably changing. So, and I'll keep it short and sweet.
Yeah. And on a high note, 5 calls and 4 appointments. That's mighty impressive, Tim. Mighty impressive.
So we'll see
That's
how
a
it
good
goes. Yeah,
odds.
we'll see how it works out today, but, you know, stay positive and positive things will happen.
I couldn't agree more. All right, Tony, you're up. You are muted, just in case you didn't know. There you go.
Hey, can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Right. All right. Got it. In personal or work related?
So this could be something that you're especially grateful for, or something very positive that happened to you in the past week. Personal or work, doesn't matter. Just something that you think will share positivity, good energy with everybody else on the call. What makes you smile?
I've been big this year on habits. So, my little brother has always struggled with simple things, not being healthy and all that stuff. So, the past 2 weeks, we've been every morning. We've been at my house for a 5 a.m. workout consistently for 2 weeks straight. So, it's been a major good thing, and it's actually impacted everything.
Awesome. That's great. Perfect. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that.
Sorry, I get it.
No worries. All right. I think everybody got to go. Did I miss anybody? If I did, unmute and go. Going once? Going twice? All right. Perfect. And actually, Tony, you reminded me of something. Another thing that I experienced this past week, I had been invited by an affluent individual that I knew as a young man. And he invited me to a Rotary Club meeting. Anybody here ever been to a Rotary meeting? I wasn't really sure what- A rotary phone, sure. Sure. I remember interacting with those as a child, and so a rotary phone is an international organization. They're generally folks that are in a place where they can do philanthropic things. Sometimes they're not, but in my community, these were all fairly well-to-do folks. And the purpose was to network me with them for a project that I'm working on for a religious organization where I'm selling annuities and really big ticket life insurance. But anyway, that worked really, really well. And what was really surprising and heartwarming in that moment was that it was very early. They got me, I was there at 6:15 in the morning, which was way earlier than I would normally be up or out of that house. And I was at this event, and 4 of the 60-some people that were in the room were people that knew me when I was a kid. And to walk into this room, and to make eye contact with me, and to see their faces light up, to see me again as an adult, after they last saw me as a preteen or teenager, and the way that they talked to me and the opportunity that created for me, that was very heartwarming. Let's say that. All right, I just wanted to share that. That being said, over the course of the week, we had a request for a topic. So I want to dive into this. It is now 12:18, so we did a great job in positivity and gratitude. I want to dive into this topic, and I want to really make this about group participation. Okay, so the topic is policy replacement. The question is, when is it appropriate and how do we do it? Right? So there are people on this call who have been doing this for a little bit, and they know the answers to these questions. So it doesn't need to be about me lecturing or any way, shape, or form like that. What I'd really like is if you've ever done it, please post in the chat right now on this Zoom, what are the reasons to replace a policy? Or what reasons have you replaced coverage for? What were the reasons that you replaced the policy? Whether for yourself or for a client. And while those are going into the chat, I am going to tell a story about a policy replacement that I did yesterday. Okay, so while you are putting those in the chat, the client that I was with yesterday had purchased some policies from one of my agents back in 2019, 2020, and they weren't replacing any of those policies. The family wanted additional coverage. Their circumstances had changed. Their income had gone up for a couple reasons, and there was a greater risk. And so they wanted additional coverage. And when I got over to their house, I started going through their policies. I was separating out the ones that, let's just say I did, right? Me and one of my agents had written, and then the policies that they had gotten from somewhere else. And one of the policies that they had was from a company called Crusade. And I noticed that this policy was describing Crusade, but was marketing or branded a local funeral. And this is normally a red flag. I am not a huge fan of pre-arranged funeral policies. They're generally not great for clients. They're very good for the funeral home, not great for the person. Generally, not always, but generally. And I don't know if anybody here knows this, but funeral directors have a special life insurance license. There's a special license just for funeral directors. There's a reason for it. Okay. And so I asked the client, what was the purpose of this policy? They explained it to me. The way they explained it to me, I knew what I needed to do to help them see what they had done. She said, the wife had explained to me, well, we paid for a cremation, and we paid to have our remains stored at the Kennedy Space Center. They have this memorial for veterans, they have a marble wall, and this funeral home is going to do this, this, and this, and get us in there. And I noticed, they told us it was going to be $3,000, but I noticed that the policy benefit was $4,300. And I asked them about it, and they said, yeah, that covers all the extras. And so, as we go through the policy and we're reading it, and anybody who's done this for a little bit will hear what I'm about to say and be like, whoa. If you don't know, I will share with you at the end. $4,300 full life policy
paid up in 5 years, $108 per month. $4,300 in coverage, paid up in 5 years, $108 a month. Go ahead, if you know why
Right?
Please tell
No,
me.
thank I actually did replace it. I will tell you why I replaced it, because it needed to be replaced. I will tell you why. I'm glad you said that, Nikki. So the reason that policy needed to be replaced was, in the first 5 years of the policy, this person is gonna pay $6,250 for a $4,300 death benefit. She's gonna be, the policy will be paid in full, paid in $6,300 in the first 5 years. The cash value grows, the death benefit does not. So if she makes it past 5 years, she's already upside down, $1,500. Right? We called the carrier, I verified the information, and then I asked the carrier a series of questions, such as, does the death benefit increase with the cash value? Because if it does, it might be a viable policy, right? You paid up in 5 years, great. It did, but not in a meaningful way. So I asked the agent, said, at what point would the policy ever pay out more than the client pays in? What did the representative tell me, everybody? Never. I said, so let me make sure I understand. The client pays you $6,250 over the course of 5 years. And at some point in the future, you'll pay out $4,300. Yeah. Okay. Very good. Okay. So the client understood that this is not a good deal, especially since we could do a $15,000 whole life policy for $104. $4,300 at $108 for 5 years. Never going to get more than what they paid in. Or $104 a month for $15,000. Which makes more sense?
But she didn't have that full policy the full 5 years. Sorry, I was taking a call and I missed the first half. So she didn't have it the first 5 years. You were just looking at it, the numbers.
Yeah, no, Nikki, you were on point the way that I presented that. I just want to make sure everybody on the call knows Nikki's reaction was on point to the way that I described that coverage, right? Because when you see that at first, paid up in 5 years is very appealing. It's very, very appealing, especially for folks that are either looking at retirement or already retired and maybe have some kind of side hustle going on. The opportunity to not have that payment in 5 years is appealing. However, in this particular case, it was not right for the client. And so then we dug in a little deeper. We called the funeral home and trying to find out why it was for. We were unable to get clarity on that. And what we found when we Googled reviews for this agency was that this is common practice for them. They would sell a plan, they would collect more than what the client would purchase. So they were locking in your rate today, $3,000 covers this, and this, and then they would take out the policy for more. And then when the beneficiaries come along, they say, well, we budgeted $3,000, we took out the policy to cover any increases in costs or taxes or fees. And that was 10 years ago or 12 years ago, and now it's not enough to cover it, so your person is going to be this. Which is not okay, just to be clear, that is not okay, but that's how this company did business. So we promptly replaced that policy, all right? And we documented that. So I'm looking at my chat, and I don't see where anybody posted any reasons why to replace coverage. Has nobody on this call ever replaced the policy before? I'm still typing. Okay. All right, well, so while Tony is typing, can I get everyone to put in the chat just some ideas of why you might replace the policy different than what I just said? What are some reasons you think it might make sense to replace it from existing policy? I wish I had some Jeopardy music, but wouldn't that be silly? All right, we got when and as the lighting changes. Yeah, so their needs have changed. They took out a policy at some point in time, and today that policy doesn't do what they need it to do. That's a good reason to replace it. That's right. That's exactly right. What else we got? all day. Great, but yeah, if you can offer better for the client. So we're gonna come back to that in a moment because that actually is true, it is accurate, but it is a gray area. We're gonna talk about that in just a moment. What do you mean by that? Linda, bring policy along with me to get a lower rate?
Well, they're policies that I wrote. So they're still sitting over there. And, I looked at the rates that you can provide over here, and they're lower.
So a better coverage or lower.
Better
lower-
coverage, yes.
So since that came up twice in a row, let's address that. All right, so I'm gonna give you folks a couple scenarios. You tell me, so if it's right or wrong to replace it. Okay? Yes, yes. All right, very good. So, I took out a policy 5 years, 5-year-old policy. It's a term policy. Right? Let's say I'm 55 now, took the policy out when I'm 50 for $100,000. Okay, I took it out because I had refinanced my home and I took out a $100,000 mortgage. And I was concerned that if something happened to me, my wife and kids wouldn't be able to cover that payment without my income. I wouldn't want them to lose their home. Since then, the mortgage has been paid off. And now my concern is about final expenses. And this policy was a 20-year term. Does it make sense to replace it? Question?
Can you repeat that scenario again?
Yeah, so I'm 55. I took out a 20-year term policy when I was 50 for $100,000. Doesn't matter what the premium is, okay? I took it out because I had refinanced the mortgage for $100,000. Okay, I have since paid off that mortgage. Now my concern is final expenses. Does it make sense to replace that policy?
Years and you're 50, yes, because you're obviously gonna outlive that policy. So you could either convert the term, the remaining balance of the term to a final expense for life of some sort, or an IUL of some sort, depending on if you have, now that you paid off the mortgage, now you have less the income.
Yeah, but so did everybody hear what Nikki said? What was
Yeah.
the first thing that Nikki said? He said, convert. Convert. So when you hear that somebody has a term policy, their needs have changed. They're less concerned about a 6-figure payout. They're more concerned about immediate expenses when they're gone. What they're asking for is a conversion. And so your responsibility, your job is not necessarily to replace the policy, but you probably will. Your job is to determine whether they can convert their existing term to a permanent policy with the same carrier, or if you need to replace that policy. Everybody understand that? So the why is that policy no longer fits their needs. The how is by determining whether or not they can convert their existing policy or they need to write a new policy. Okay. Holly, did you have any questions or any comments you want to make on that? No? Okay. All right, very good. Or if the policy doesn't have living benefits, financial picture has changed up or down. That's right. Right. Yep. Right. Okay, and let's see here. So Nikki said, if the policy is a variable cash growth and wasn't properly structured, or really doesn't benefit the client in the long run. Really, that is 100% accurate. For everybody on the call that's new to the insurance industry, this is a complicated topic, and I'm going to try to simplify this as much as I can. Sometimes you're going to meet with a client, they're going to tell you that they have permanent coverage. And you're going to ask them about their coverage, and they're going to use the word universal life. And it is your job, your responsibility, to have them review that policy, get that policy out, take a look at their forecast, and find their last statement on their cash value growth. Ideally, the last 3 statements. And the reason for this is, so the why of replacing the policy could be, and you need to know this before you recommend a replacement. This thing is gonna run out. Okay, it is not what they told you, it's not performing the way they told you it would, and you are gonna be without coverage if you don't replace it now. Okay, that would be the why. The how is finding out if that's true. It's not always gonna be true. Sometimes agents do the right thing, and they structure these policies in a way that they grow in cash value for years and years and years and years. And then when the person's in their sixties or seventies or eighties, the cash value is effectively covering the premium, and it will last the rest of their life. And in that case, do not replace that policy. Do not do it. You're not, they got it when they were young, you are not going to do that. Don't even entertain it, all right? But if you pull those statements and you can see their cash value going down rapidly, year over year, it's dropping. And you can see, hey, this thing's gonna run out of money, like 4 years, 5 years, you're gonna be 65 or 75. You don't really wanna wait until then to apply for new coverage. Just on your age alone, never mind your health, you wouldn't wanna do that. So the why is the policy's gonna run out, and how is to determine when it's gonna run out, and if it makes sense to put something permanent with a level benefit and a level premium in place. It's gonna be like a full life policy instead of a universal life policy. Nikki, since that was your topic, is there anything that you'd like to add to that?
Yeah, so, one of our top carriers are American and New, and they both have the IUL express type policies, and so those are built to where they will sustain the client to go to the age of 120 as long as premiums are paid, right? Correct? Because that's what we've been sold on, that's what we've been told. And when you look at the actual full illustration of it, it does show that and reflect that, because there's enough cash value at that time. But it's the guaranteed components that you have to look at, and even in the New and the America, because if their premiums aren't high enough, if they age, that premium's not gonna catch up to the remaining cash value, it'll just limit it down. So anytime I sit with a client and I look at that, I'm like, okay, first of all, your cash value is not even growing at the rate because you're paying only $79 if you got it at this age. Now they're getting upside down with the cash, and they thought they were gonna have some cash. So, and it makes it really upside down to take money out of that policy as well. So you have to kind of look at all of it. I actually sat with a lady who took out a policy, and it was a variable. It had she never borrowed against it until she went through some health crisis. But when she did, it depleted a lot of her cash value, but she was paying it back, but not at the rate that she needed to. And now she's up in her age. So how does the taxes play a factor in that when you replace a policy like that? And they get the money in? Because that was a huge question that somebody had out there,
Yeah. So one of the most beautiful things about life insurance, and one of my most favorite things about cash value life insurance, is that if you funded it with your private money, you funded it with post-tax money, you don't pay taxes on that money when you take it. You don't pay taxes on the principal, you don't pay taxes on the growth.
and it doesn't count as income. It doesn't affect their social security income. So I did tell her, right, because she was like, when she realized that she had nothing, literally nothing in about 3 years, that cash value was gonna get beaten up because of the cost of insurance with her age. And there was no way she could pay back all of that money, right? So they took their portion. She was left with a balance of still about 8,500, and she took that, and we write her, and she thought that for all these years she had a regular whole life policy. That's what she thought, and that was not the case.
Yeah. And so, just for everybody that's here, right or wrong, like, we all have different experiences, we all encounter different things out in the field, but Nikki just said a couple different things that tell me what the client has. So Nikki, tell me, when you reviewed this policy, was it called flexible premium adjustable whole life?
No, it wasn't was a flexible premium adjustable variable universal life.
That was the name of the product that actually referred to itself as universal, but she thought it was whole,
But it was a variable.
but she thought it was whole even though the product said universal. Okay, all right. So for everybody on the call, when you're talking to folks and they say they have a whole life policy and you get into it, it's gonna be very common for it to say flexible premium adjustable whole life. It's a very misleading. It is no longer an acceptable practice. It was acceptable through the seventies, eighties, and into the nineties. And so there's a lot of those policies out there. One carrier in particular that did a lot of that was MetLife.
Oh, maybe that's what it was, but that was the carrier was. Which transferred over to like Lighthouse or something like that.
And now there's dozens of different names on these policies, but they all generally say flexible premium adjustable whole life unless they were issued after this change in the government and they had to be properly labeled universal. Because that's what they are.
Yeah, and I think that's what it was, and I'm just gonna recommend that when you sit with a client and you get a policy like that. I don't know what it is with these carriers, they don't want the clients to cancel their policy, lose this money, whatever. And the clients don't know how to ask the question. This is how you're gonna build that trust for a lifetime with a client. Okay, well, let's call the carrier together while we're here. They will ask you, and you give them a heads up, they will ask you to verify who you are. And then they'll start, and then you can say, I have an agent, my agent here, and I give her permission to speak on my behalf. That way, they're both there, you know exactly what they're saying, and you've helped your client out. And you've gathered all the pertinent information that you need to make the decision to rewrite the policy in.
I couldn't have done that anymore. Thank you, Nikki. That was lovely. That was very nice. All right, so, I just want to recap what you said. I could not have said it better. The important thing you all need to take away from that was call the carrier. You encounter one of these policies, do not stand there and try to explain anything. Do not tell them what it is. Do not get into the weeds on that. Say, hey, you know what? We've got some money answered questions here. Let's call the carrier and see if we can get this straight from the horse's mouth. Right? And to Nikki's point, you're going to get on. You need to introduce yourself. State that you're a licensed insurance broker. State your name. And then say, I have your client in front of me, and they can verify themselves however you like. They can hear you, you can hear them, go right ahead. And then they'll do that process, and then you retake control of that call. Okay, and you're there as an advocate for your client. So you're the one asking the question. You have the right to change your tone if you don't get the answer you're looking for. Okay.
And you learn a lot for yourself, because that was the first time I had ever come across this, and I learned a whole lot. So.
Yeah, so everybody please, the how on this is call the carrier. You heard me say that I did that with my client, call the carrier before you offer to replace. Okay? That sometimes people pull their policies apart and the page is missing and they say very important things. If you don't see it, it's important that you call the carrier. You ask the very relevant questions. When is this thing gonna lapse? Is it ever gonna pay out more than what they paid in? Things like that, right? Make sure that those very important topics are covered on the call. Make sure you're interacting with the client during that call. Did you hear what they just said? Right? Did you hear what the agent said? You understand what that means? Right? With the carrier on the phone. Okay? Very important that you do that. For you, for the client, but for your legal protection. Replacing policies is not the safest thing you can do. All right? There is liability when you replace a policy. Can anybody put in the chat some liability, some reasons that you need to be careful about replacing a policy? Why it doesn't make sense to just jump to a policy replacement. Okay, it's very important. This is what I want to focus on the last little bit of this call is why you don't replace a policy. Okay, do's and don'ts. Okay, do's and don'ts. So while those are going into the chat, I do want to take a moment. I want everyone to hear me say this as a disclaimer. You should always document existing policies, whether or not you're replacing them. That's not relevant. You need to document existing policies. Okay. That's my disclaimer. Fact of the matter is, I am guilty of not always documenting existing policies. Okay, I use my discretion when documenting existing policies. If it's relevant to the application, I will document it. If it is not relevant to the application, I might not document it. And there's a few reasons for it that I'm not gonna get into here on the call. Best practice is always document existing policies, always document.
Are you talking about money out?
Go ahead, Nikki. Disclaimer, always do it. Everybody on the call, disclaimer, always document.
Always do it, yeah.
Always document existing
But
policies,
there-
always document replacement.
But there is a carrier that won't give you more coverage.
So there are some carriers, and these are gonna be particularly with their guaranteed issue products, that will not issue additional coverage if there is already a policy in place. So the natural question is, well, why not? And
Or
what's
the
the
maximum.
consequence?
Yeah.
Or more than that amount, and then the follow-up question is, well, what happens if I did? Right, and so the answer to that, the latter is, carriers still pay that. Okay, I had a client a couple years ago, passed away now. When we met, she pulled out a booklet of policies. She must have had 6 guaranteed issue whole life policies in place, and she wanted more. And I was leery, but I was new, and I was like, okay, all right, I'll do it. And so I did it. And so then when she passed away, the daughter called me, I thought I didn't help her, right? Called me, I went over there, I sat down with her, went through all the policies, where we had a beautiful binder, right? And we went through and every single one of them paid out. Every single one of them. Not one of them asked, was there existing coverage? Okay, so it is important you document, it is important that you list the policies that are in there. I will offer this though. While it's important that you document that there is coverage in place, what's most important is that you name the carrier and the coverage method. I do not recommend that you list the policy numbers. Okay, I do recommend you put in zeros for the policy numbers. The new carrier does not need to know the policy number. All they need to know is that there is a policy and the base amount of that policy. Okay, if they have the policy number, there is a possibility that they will send a letter to the existing carrier, letting them know that the person is requesting new coverage, and they will cite that policy number. If you don't put a policy number, it is unlikely they will make that communication.
Okay, I thought that was a requirement that we had, because I know a few times some of the carriers have reached back out asking for a policy number.
If that happens, you need to provide it. You do need to provide if they ask for it like that. I have never had a carrier come back and ask me for the policy number unless I was doing a replacement. If you're doing a replacement, you absolutely have to put the policy number, because they need to send a letter to the existing carrier letting them know, stop drafting payments while we review this application. We will let you know if we issue it, and then we're replacing that policy. So existing coverage not being replaced, carrier, base amount. If you are replacing the policy, you need to provide all the information for the policy that you're replacing. It has to be done. And not stress this enough. If you're replacing a policy, there are certain documents that the client needs to get, and there's authorizations the carrier, the new carrier, needs to have to communicate with the old carrier. You have to list that information. Okay? All right. So, did anybody list any other reasons not to replace a policy? All right. So then we're going to come back to the price, right? So you all, a couple of you had mentioned, if you can save them money, right? You can save them money, replace the policy. Slow your roll. Slow your roll. How much money are you saving them, and how long have they had their existing policy? If they've had their policy for more than 2 years, they are currently outside of the contestability period. Okay, every new life insurance policy sold has a contestability period of 2 years, 24 months. If you replace a policy, let's say you're saving the person $15 a month. Okay, let's say it's a $200 a month premium, and now it's going to be $185. You're saving them $15 a month. That's great. But if you're resetting the clock on their contestability period, they die the next day or the next year, and they got a health issue that they didn't disclose to you, or that didn't get caught in the underwriting process, you screwed that pen. right? So you need to be cautious about how much value you're bringing, saving them some money. If you're saving them $50 a month, you know, on a $200 a month policy, and you come along, you're like, hey, you really get the same coverage for $150 a month? That might make more sense, right? But if it's got to make sense to you,
But I
do
would
it,
like,
understanding that you're resetting the cost. of it.
I mean, it's sort of recording it.
That's the.
Like, soon I remember, I'm still recording your thing, so I just want to make sure it doesn't run out, like, you're still,
Make
like, did you
sure.
head into, you know, it's recording.
Understand the cost of it.
I was like, no, I was like, that's the agent, and they were like,
$50 a month.
pen winner, you
Are
know,
you 100%
salad
sure?
producers.
You have no
and
penny
I'm really,
no other
I'm back with you.
There's no
She
other
was
policy
seriously, I'm like,
that
yeah.
that other policy. Really beat that up. I can't stress that enough. You've got to emphasize that. So if something happens, not only could you be liable, which is why many carriers require you to carry E&O, but you're gonna feel a certain way when you get that phone call, find out that policy doesn't pay it. You are gonna feel a certain way. I would encourage you to spare yourself that feeling. Okay? Thankfully, it's never happened to me, but I am aware of agents that have had that experience, and I encourage you not to put yourself in that position.
I think that's the biggest liability, really. Because when you actually explain it truly to the client, and if the client, after you disclose that and you told them, and they say, no, I'm okay with replacing it, make sure you note that somewhere. I mean, seriously, because then they can come back and say it's, well, she never told me. We did have a big long discussion, and I think that's where the liability is huge. Where we're not really, we're kind of flailing in the wind and something. And a lot of times once they actually fully understand, they'll say, no, you know what, I'm good. Okay, well, let's look at just supplementing a final expense policy for about $40. That still fits in your budget. You were looking at spending about 50, let's just add to that. And that way, you're locking in your rate while you're young, while you're still qualified, and it's kind of going along the same route. And then when that time expires,
Silac and Prosperity, that was it. Like, there's no way that I'm bringing you over for 3 carriers like that.
Everybody else you got that.
Just
kind of
stay where you're at.
You just demonstrate to you how she talks to the client, how she can use.
Oh, yeah, no, not a partner level. He wanted to be our business partner,
So you may come across those opportunities.
like an owner, a founder.
Full.
And I was like,
Got it,
that,
that makes sense. The term, there's a few more questions like about convertibility. If they have convertibility, they have guaranteed convertibility, they're still young enough to get it. It is important that we call the carrier, have that conversation with the carrier. What's it gonna cost to convert to this event? Okay, because a lot of times, particularly with one of the carriers that Nikki already mentioned, the conversion number is not great. And you can do better with a new policy if the person's still healthy. Right? So we're here in the last 10 minutes of our call. Are there any other questions, related or unrelated? Tim, I see you got your mic unmuted. What do you got?
Yeah, so, one of my calls today, I've been working with him over the last 2 weeks. He has one of the policies you mentioned before with the flexible premium adjustable rate. Said he had it from age 16, paid $18 a month. But he says his cash value is only $3,000. Didn't make a lot of sense to me that the numbers just don't compute that way. Didn't really dive into that one, but his second one, he picked up another whole life. He's 51. He picked it up when he was 48. It's a $50,000 whole life with $150,000 term rider on it for 15 years. He's paying $211 a month. Well, I started playing around with it, and I could write him a policy for the same $211 a month for $200,000. Then we could always reduce the coverage at a later date, right?
You're talking about doing a term with convertibility?
No, yeah, still getting rid of that one that he has with the whole life and the term rider, and just right now like an IUL for the same 211. And then, you know, talk to the carrier and they said that down the road they could adjust the coverage to benefit them all. So that's kind of how I was looking at it. Is that the right way or the wrong way?
I would have a bunch of follow-up questions for that to get some clarity before I would make a recommendation on that. So everybody on the call, I just wanna use some different language to describe what Tim just described, and then Tim, I want you to correct me if I say something wrong, okay?
I'll try.
All right, so what Tim just described was a 3-year-old policy, when it's 48 and then 51. The 3-year-old policy, this is a whole life policy with a term rider for a total death benefit of $200,000. Did I get that right? That was a 15-year term on a $150,000 15-year term rider, and a $50,000 full life policy. I'm gonna just take a shot in the dark. I mean, it could be any one of these criteria that does that kind of.
And I won this shirt on a carrier trip I won in the mountains.
Is that what it was?
It got me like, country financial or whatever. Like what you said.
So a lot of times these are participating for life policies. If there's a whole life of the term rider, a lot of times they're participating whole life, which means the whole life portion, the death benefit goes up over time. It goes up in a fairly meaningful way. So you do need to call a carrier, find out how it's gonna look in 15 years. What's the death benefit gonna be? Because to your question, Ken, if you were to fund that IUL now at 51, at $211 a month, what is the forecast? Like the current illustration, what is the forecast for the cash value in 14 years when the client is 65?
Yeah, so I played out the numbers that he had given me, his payout with the current company, the guaranteed, not guaranteed, but his projected value is 18,484, and I was at 27,000 plus. After the 15 years.
So you're shy of 30,000 at age 65.
Right.
Okay, so the thing that you need to take into account and really understand before you make a recommendation here is that the whole life cost of insurance is going to be level. So when that term rider falls off, that premium's not going to change for the rest of the client's life. It stays exactly where it is. Right? The death benefit might go up because of the cash value, but the premium won't change. And that universal life policy at $30,000 at age 65, that cost of insurance could become exponentially higher than it is today at age 51.
Right.
The cost of insurance today could be for a $200,000 policy, it could only be, $100 a month or 125 or 150 bucks a month. But by the time you're 65, that cost of insurance could be north of $300, north of $400 a month, depending on the carrier. And so to your point, they would have to start reducing the death benefit to keep that premium down. And that is a strategy, and that could make sense, right? That could make a ton of sense. But you
Yeah.
have to-
The questions I had asked him, I'm like, well, I had asked him if it wasn't increasing full life, then, because I said at age 67 is what he had given me. Like at age 67, what is your whole life policy valued at? Because he brought out his forms, his benefit, and he said 50,000. And I was like, well,
So the death benefit didn't increase over.
it didn't increase at
after
all.
So many years, did it ever increase after so many years?
According to him, no, it was 50,000 at that point. And I'm like, well, I just don't, I said, why the $150,000 term rider? He's like, well, my agent just felt that was the best way to do it to get you more coverage. And like, that just doesn't make sense to me. And that's why it's taking so long. I've been going back and forth because I've been playing the numbers game with this, calculating, recalculating. I mean, the best way obviously is just to give them a call and find out and hear it right from them to make sure that there's no confusion in this. I just feel like my way, if you're paying the 211, might as well put it into something that can grow faster than what, a portion of his policy premium is just going towards the term policy that's gonna fade away. So I don't know,
Your thought is correct. If that is true, your thought is 100% correct. If doing an IUL doesn't make sense. If what you said is true. So then what you do need to do is call the carrier. You can absolutely need to call the carrier on this, and you need to hear it, and the client needs to hear it right from them, that the whole life portion will not change or go up in the future. And if it
Would
does,
you-
go ahead.
Would you reveal that you're exploring an IUL with another carrier, or just leave that, don't even mention it, right? Just talk about that policy and that policy alone.
That's a really great question. Tim, I want to hear what you have to say, but everybody needs to hear this. When you call the carriers, do not share information. It is not, you are not calling to give them anything, right? Do not give them anything, nothing. Your name, that you're a licensed agent, they verify the client, and then you're asking the questions. Do not engage with their questions. They might ask, we could ask them a series of questions, and they could even try to get you off the phone, right? You need to maintain control. You are asking the questions, not answering the questions. The client is not to answer questions at that point. Because what that agent is trying to do is save the business. And they're going to do their best to plant seeds of doubt that you know what you're doing. That is what they are there to do. Okay? Their job is to keep that business on the books, and they're gonna do whatever they have to do that. And if they feel like they can get you, and get you to start running your mouth, they will. But do not. Tim, please, go ahead.
No, you hit the nail right on the head. I was just gonna approach that with, I just want them to tell me what they can do for him. I already know what I can do for him, so he needs to hear what limitations that he's up against. And at the same time too, I think we all know that if it's the right fit for him to stay there, no harm, no foul, right? But yeah, what you just said is perfect, because I'm just gonna focus on, is their policy, tell me about your benefits. I already know what mine are, so I don't, and I can explain that to him once we're off the phone with that company, so. I didn't mean to take up so much time on it, but I thank you all for sharing. That's great. Appreciate it.
No, I'm glad that you shared. I'm glad that you shared that opportunity with us. That was a very good case example of, does it make sense to do a replacement? That was very good. Don't apologize. That was great. Thank you. Please do that more, right? That's more of that. Yeah. We are at 1 o'clock. So if you just want to do what I normally do here, does anybody have any additional questions around that topic or any other topics?
I do, if you're good on time.
I'm good. I leave an hour after my scheduled call here because we want to focus on the important things, and everybody, because we all work remote, you don't get all the time you need, so I make sure to leave this open for Q&A. So go right ahead.
So I'm actually gonna fall pretty much in the policy reviews with all the policies I wrote last year, the previous organization.
Yep.
And with replacing these policies, they're within that 2-year period. What do I have to look out for? Like, as long as I'm offering more coverage or equal to the same before benefit. I've never actually went and replaced policy like that, but I know we have better rates and other options, more options for clients. So I'm starting to review, but that's gonna make sure I get the benefit.
So the best advice I can give you on that is, if the amount that you're saving them or the increasing the amount of coverage, the benefits of the plan makes sense to you, that it is not in your heart just about getting commission, right? As long as you're doing the right thing, you believe you're doing the right thing for the client, and you have to really believe it. It can't be like, oh, I think this is the right thing. You've got to be confident that you're doing the right thing for the client, and as long as that's true, if you took the time to explain the contestability period and the downside, the consequence of the replacement policy, and they're agreeing to it, go get it. Go get it all day long. All day long. And most people, if you make that call and you're like, hey, I'd really like to do a policy review, you got this thing from me, and I've got some new carriers, and I'm finding that I'm actually able to save a ton of people money. I'd like to see if that's true for you. A lot of people will appreciate that a lot, and they will gladly reset that contestability period, especially if you did a term policy and they're under 55. Right? If you
Yeah,
did a term
I actually made the call, then they, head over heels over it, but I was just like, wanting to make sure I started writing the app, you know what I mean? Cause they were like, oh, I'm just gonna call and cancel that policy, so that's why I want to make sure that it was done correctly, because I stopped everything right at that point.
Yeah, great, thank you. So we did not cover that. Thank you very much, Tony. I absolutely did not cover that topic. So everybody here, please make sure the clients understand they do not call to cancel the policy. They do not call to cancel the policy. You fill out the application, you document that you could be replacing the policy, the carrier is required to send a letter to the existing carrier. They do not do it, okay? The consequence of the client calling to cancel their policy is really twofold. The first one is, and the most important one is, they cancel that policy and they don't get approved for the coverage that they applied for with you, they are screwed. That is the most important thing. If they cancel that existing policy before they've been approved and have the new policy in their hands, they have done hurt themselves. It's very bad. We do not let that happen. The other consequence of letting the client call the carrier is, carrier's gonna do what the carrier's gonna do, and they're gonna try to salvage that business. And you don't want your client calling the carrier and getting another salesperson from that carrier who may be able to come along and finagle that away from you. They can plant seeds of doubt, they can come along with another product, they can do all kinds of things that could jeopardize your sale. You believe you're doing the right thing, so you want to make sure that the client is served properly, right? The carrier on the other hand.
They require, even though that you're replacing the policy, some carriers won't cancel that policy until the client calls.
You call with your client. So the way that conversation goes is, hey, we're applying for this coverage today. Please don't take any action with the existing carrier. When you get your new policy, once you've been approved, the premium has been drafted, you have a new policy in your hand. We have reviewed it together. We have made sure everything that we talked about is spelled out in black and white. This is what you want. You are 100% confident. This is the plan that you're keeping. We will call your existing carrier together and surrender that policy. I will do that with you. Okay? I
Send them all the paperwork and fill it out and then explain it to them. And I facilitate as their agent, as the middle person.
You can do it that way too. If you feel confident and experienced enough to do that, by all means, you're welcome to do that, folks. I think I need to share this story. So I told you I did a policy replacement yesterday, right? And when we called the carrier, because she was approved on the spot, by the way, she was approved, issued on the spot. I said, okay, let's call the carrier and cancel that policy. I did not. It's been a long time. I failed to introduce myself as an agent. The person on the other end of the phone got consent from the client to talk to me and then proceeded to describe an impossibly long and complicated process to surrender the policy. At which point I said, oh, you know what? I forgot to mention I'm a licensed life insurance broker here in the state of Florida, and I'm advocating for this client. What you just described is completely unacceptable. Please put a supervisor on the phone. Supervisor gets on the phone. I say, here's what we're trying to do, and here's what we were just told. Supervisor says, I don't know who told you that. I'm not a supervisor, but I'll go ahead and get that policy for you right now.
That is happening.
Wow, that was complicated.
They'll give you the runaround too, so.
They will give you the runaround. They're less likely to resist if they know they're talking to a licensed agent. So my dog just lost their mind, my wife just lost her mind. Yeah, so it is important that you establish that you are an agent when you're talking to the carriers, because if you don't, you're gonna get a different response. So, it is important to say that. And I actually told the client, he asked me, how hard is it to surrender with you? It's usually just a phone call. Sometimes they have a document they want you to sign it, send back, whatever. The original agent was like, well, we're gonna mail you some forms, and you gotta fill those out and get those notarized, and you can send them back to us. You have to mail them to our field.
Yeah.
Right, get it.
Did you say full of,
I looked at my client, I smiled at her, and I said to the lady on the phone, I said, I'm sorry, I missed that. I'm a licensed life insurance broker here in the state of Florida. I'm advocating for my clients. When you just said it's completely unacceptable, please put the supervisor on the phone.
I bet you her job did her there.
I doubt it. I suspect what she did was standard operating procedure, and that is how she caused the regular folks that are not.
Wow.
That's what the clients like, they are like, I've sat on hold for 30 minutes, I've done this. You get after phones as the agent. Secondly, if they make you fill out a form, regardless if the client is on the phone, ask them to remove the PAC,
Yes.
the automatic draft. So while you're going through the process of trying to get that existing canceled,
Right.
there's not another draft that's getting.
He did do that. thank you for that. So, she did have to fill out a form in the back, we spoke to like emailing it, from that back. I said, great, in the meantime, please turn off the audio. And she was happy to do that, she sent an email confirmation that it was done. Thank you. It's a very important step in your report.
Yeah, because then the client's mad at you because they just got double charged.
Very important step if you have a big account. And, if you.
Right,
do your
yeah,
job
like,
properly,
yeah, and I
you
have,
replace
I
them for it,
switched
but the policy number that's being replaced.
every quote, I told them that anybody who's doing late, they need their part of that.
Have a legal requirement. All right, what else? Who's next? What do you got? One?
Oh, I was gonna, this is just off the top of my head, and I was gonna suggest it to Misty also. Now we're all using different kind of lead providers, and I was wondering if we could collect our sales and the lead provider that we got the sale through, so that we could see our return on investment and how that lead provider is performing for us. Are we collecting that information, Mark?
Are you providing that information either in GroupMe or in the sales tracker?
No, it's not being provided that I can see.
Are you providing?
No.
You write the sale, are you documenting where the lead came from, either in GroupMe or in the tracker?
No.
So it would be up to the individual agent to share that information
Okay,
in order for us to be able to track that information.
okay.
I don't know if it was, if your sale was on you, an EverQuote lead, a lead co-lead, a funding lead.
Right,
We have no way of knowing.
right.
So
Okay.
when you do your sales, are you putting them in the 2024 Syntron IMO agency tracker?
I'm just giving the information to Misty. She must be putting it in.
Okay. All right. So when you give the information to Misty, include the lead source, and then she will track that information, and then we can actually review that information and make some educated recommendations based on it.
I
We would love it. Absolutely love it if you would share that. You can do that directly with her. You can do it on GroupMe. I think that that's a very valuable piece of information. We would love. to
Yes.
provide those content for us.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great.
No, I think you're doing great. I think people like plugging into your training and, you know, I
Of course, you know,
I don't know if people are just, you know, they hear from me all the time that, you know, they just, one, you bring a lot of value with training. Yes, you know, I think, I know I told you that, but in case I haven't said it recently,
So,
and I think it's just too, people, they hear from me all the time, like I'm all over the training videos, so they're probably tired of hearing from me. We will throw Holly in that mix too. She was like, you know, I can pick up some training too. I'm like, okay. Yeah, so if there's ever a time too that, you know, you're not available, just let us know. Because we do pull in some more people, you know, they can jump in and do some trainings too.
And I put them on strong
foundations,
of course,
I think you're doing everything you need to do.
right, so,
Yeah.
but I know of one carrier that I could potentially get her covered as far as the final principle and my concern is that they only have really 15 years left in their in terms of. Right, and with
That's why I like that Collins. I'm like, I know I can get there. I'm doing Collins and Facebook
So
with all.
it's either converting it, but it's not lowering the premium. If converting is giving her the guaranteed issue and I can convert it for less,
Yeah.
and she could have their own.
So I'm like, I don't mind. I know there's
But
55 bucks
still-
a game, but it's a live person. But yeah, I'm looking for
With
it.
him, I could potentially bring him
Like, I
back
did,
there.
call close.
With one of the care, with that one carrier, but he loses, then he goes to smoking range. There's just all these different things. I'm not really sure if I'll save him money. He pays $273. He pays $273. She pays $173.
So you and I can work on it. That's a very complicated case for you out there. I'm happy to work with you. If there's any carriers that we do have access to, that would save them money. But the response that everyone else here on the call is, no matter how good you are, no matter how passionate you are, no matter how integrous you are, you might not be able to do what you want to do for your client. You know, you're not a magician, you don't have a magic wand, you don't get to make the rules, so there will be times when.
Yeah, I don't count it till it's on the books.
You're already in the best case scenario, and it might not be ideal, but it's better than the outcome. So, happy to share, yes, like that, with you. Did you run, quotes on that, with the various conditions, terms toolkit or through Levinson X-ray portal?
No, I don't have the Levinson portal. I have the insurance.
Yeah, because I do want to start building here soon, but I don't want to build until, you know, I know we have solid foundation.
And I just thankfully told them, yeah, we have a follow-up, you know, and I said, let me just see if I can do any magic, but we may not. We have some different things that are now, you know, that we have to overcome, and it may be that we just start, you know, the only other option is to supplement with either convert.
Yeah,
And keep the
yep.
guarantee.
So that one was a Facebook lead this morning. He came in this morning and texted him.
Or less.
Yeah, so I'll start doing
You know,
that.
convert a portion and see if we can get.
Cause yeah, I do think that's important too. I thought that he was going to about close, but yeah, he was, the wife, you know, we'll get her too, but his rates, you know, he was GTL, so for her.
Unfortunate circumstances,
They're like,
we
ah.
will encounter them.
You know, we're waiting on one other thing. I'm like, okay, it's like, you know, I'm not pushing the freshman year. But, you know,
Best you can.
yep, you just call me back when you're ready to do yours and we'll do yours too, but yeah, no, that's a good idea too, saying where the lead came from, but yeah, that was a Facebook lead. People earlier for me this week were someone wanting to change